Well, this is truly a very good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chris Knopp, Executive Director of Friends of the Boundary Waters Wilderness, and thank you for joining us for this special Lunch with the Friends program to discuss the Biden administration's recent decision yesterday that affects the Boundary Waters and what it means for the Boundary Waters and Twin Metals. It is also the 43rd anniversary of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness Act that was signed into law on October 21st, 1978. So it is quite a wonderful anniversary celebration for all of us from Kent, Ohio to Rochester, Minnesota to Grand Marais to Boise, Idaho, and Alaska. All of you from all over the country that are here to join us. And since Yonkers, New York, well, there you go. Friends of the Boundary Waters Wilderness we were founded in 1976 to pass the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness Act, and we have been since that time a community of people that love the Boundary Waters, share the experiences of the Boundary Waters, and we want to see that opportunity continued on to the next generation. We have with us this afternoon two of our attorneys from Robbins Kaplan, Brian Michelle and Eric Barstad, that have been representing us for the last several years here as we have worked to protect the Boundary Waters from the threat of copper-sulfide mining. So we are so grateful to have them here and to have this service that they've provided to us over these last few years here. I see that many people have discovered the chat button below. Please place your comments in the chat function there. We will respond to those. We also have the Q&A tab at the bottom there for you to present questions that we can answer perhaps throughout and also at the end here. And so I will set the stage a bit and then have Brian and Eric answer specific questions as we move through the program here. And the Friends of the Boundary Waters Wilderness has been the voice and the vehicle for protecting the Boundary Waters for almost 4.5 decades now. And the current threat is toxic sulfide mining, and it's important to kind of understand what this threat is. It is much different. It is much different from the historic iron mining, the ferrous mining that has gone on in northeast Minnesota here. Copper sulfide mining releases, because the rock formation contains sulfide in it, when it's exposed to air and water, it creates sulfuric acid. That's battery acid. So this is, when this genie comes out of the bottle, it's something that you cannot put back into it. So copper sulfide mining that's proposed here by what are two mines that present this common threat, Twin Metals and Polymet, is much different than the historic mining here in Minnesota. So this is very, very different. And so the two mines again are Twin Metals and Polymet. Twin Metals is within the Rainy River watershed, the Boundary Waters watershed, and is just south of Ely. Polymet is a little further to the south and west, and it's in the Lake Superior watershed. It's at the headwaters of the St. Louis River, closer to Babbitt. And so these two threats have perhaps the distinction of polluting two watersheds, both the Rainy River watershed that the Boundary Waters watershed that flows into the Hudson Bay, and Polymet has the dubious distinction of polluting Lake Superior. So between the two, it has the dubious distinction of threatening two important watersheds here. What we'll do is take a specific dive now into the Twin Metals site here. And so what you're seeing in red here is the proposed Twin Metals site. And it is at the confluence of Birch Lake and the South Coishwe River there. And so that tail that you see in the red area, that's the power lines that would be used to service the proposed mine. This is an underground mine, so this would go underneath the Birch Lake in that area and bore into the rock formations there. And you can see how the water flow is here. That the water actually flows from the South Quishri River there, from the northeast there, and then extends down, and then it flows up towards the north through White Iron and that chain of lakes into the Boundary Waters proper. That crosshatched area is the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. So that is how this contamination path would flow from Twin Metals here. And it's important to get a sense of just how beautiful this area is. So this is the where the campsite currently is. If you were to go camping here, you would paddle out here just as I did and camp along here. And this is the Twin Metals site. So it is a short walk from the shore to where Twin Metals would be built and contaminate this beautiful water body as you see here in this photograph here. So it's a very beautiful area. And so what Twin Metals proposes is it's gonna build a mountain, a dry stack mountain of waste, where it would put the waste from its mining operations. And it's important to get just a sense of scale of how much waste is generated from this. That the actual ore in the rock, that the copper and nickel that Twin Metals hopes to mine, it's not 50% of the rock, it's not 25% of the rock, it's not 10% or 5%, it's not even 1%. You're looking at something around 0.4% of having the actual mineral concentration that Twin Metals would be seeking. So it's generating over 99% waste. And so so it would store that waste in two places. It would create this mountain of waste that we see here in this sort of yellow outline on the screen. And it would also put some of the waste back down the mine and put it underground. But one of the problems here for anyone that's ever built a sand castle at a beach with your kids or family members, or when you were a kid here, it's really tough to create something that sticks. And so what they need to do for this dry stack, they need to keep a moisture level of around 15%. So you just have enough moisture so that you create this mountain, but it can't be too wet. Otherwise, it'll slide right into that beautiful shoreline that the previous screen showed here. But as we know that it rains and snows in Minnesota, and we know that rain and storm events are becoming more severe. So you just see how the proximity to Birch Lake there, that the plan for this mine is to have it a zero discharge mine, but it's really truly a sandcastle. And just as you add too much water to a sandcastle and it slumps down, that's what the risk is here. And what you see here is a true catastrophe in the making, where it would slump down and would pollute Birch Lake that we saw previously. So that's kind of setting the stage for what Twin Metals wants to do here, is create this new type of mining that's never been done on the shores of Birch Lake, where the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness is downstream to it. And so now we have been challenging Twin Metals in federal court for the last 3 years now, almost 4 years. And I'm going to turn it over to Brian and Eric to talk about the lawsuits that we've instituted with our partners, and the sort of what those lawsuits are about. So I'll turn it over to Brian and Eric, and please take it away from here.
Thanks, Chris, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brian Michelle. I'm in the IP group at Robbins Kaplan, and a very strong supporter of the Boundary Waters Wilderness. Love visiting frequently with my friends and family. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the background of the litigation that the Friends and others are asserting in coordination in order to assess and stop the Twin Metals mine in the federal court system. So I'll give a little recap to set the stage, and obviously the reason we're here today is to talk about the recent announcement yesterday that came out from the Department of the Interior. So we'll talk about that after giving some background. So the Friends are currently party to 2 separate lawsuits that are related to the Twin Metals project. So for shorthand, we refer to those as the reinstatement litigation and the renewal litigation. The Friends are engaging in that litigation in coordination with other interested parties, including several outfitters, the Wilderness Society, Northeastern Minnesotans for Wilderness, and Earth Justice is playing a large role in this as well. So this is a coordinated effort in the court systems. The reinstatement litigation, to give a little background, concerns 2 mineral leases that were originally issued to a predecessor of Twin Metals all the way back in 1966. Many years later, the Bureau of Land Management, which is an agency within the Department of Interior, declined to renew the leases and they expired. It was in 2016. A few years later, under aggressive lobbying and political pressure during the Trump administration, the Department of Interior reversed course. And rather than issue new leases under a formal process approved by Congress, they took a shortcut. And these are the allegations that are in the reinstatement litigation. There a new legal opinion issued from the Department of Interior, essentially purporting to find an error in that 2016 decision that concluded the leases had expired. And the Department of Interior simply reinstated the leases at that point. And the Friends, along with other environmental organizations and local businesses, filed suit. And the Friends argued that government lacked authority to simply resurrect these leases that had long since expired, and that purported error that the Trump administration pointed to rationalize this decision did not really exist. Those are the allegations in the reinstatement litigation. The DC District Court sided against the Friends and coordinated parties, and that decision has been appealed to the DC Circuit Court of Appeals. That's in the middle of appellate briefing right now, and we feel confident in our ability to succeed in that appeal. The renewal litigation is a separate agency action that the Department of Interior took when they renewed the leases for an additional 10-year term in 2019. So leases were reinstated and they're also renewed in a separate action. And so in May of last year, the Friends, again, coordinated with other parties, filed a separated lawsuit in DC District Court challenging that renewal. Among other things, the allegations are that the government renewed the leases without preparing the appropriate in-depth EIS, environmental impact statement, that's required under an NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act. Again, after the change of administration recently, the federal defendants moved to stay this case to allow senior officials within the DOI, the Department of Interior, to complete their review of the renewals of the leases for Twin Metals and to reach a decision on the department's position in the case. And so the renewal litigation is currently stayed pending the review from federal agencies of those 2 existing leases. And we're still awaiting completion of that review. So while we're all here today, yesterday's news from the Biden administration. This, as you've all, I'm sure, read in the news, has been kind of igniting a firestorm of public comment already. I'll give a brief intro to kind of what it says based on the face of the announcement, and then we'll talk a little bit about how that relates, if at all, to litigation. So the order that came out yesterday committed to essentially completing the study that was abandoned in the last administration. And a 20-year, they're initiating consideration of a potential 20-year withdrawal of portions of the BWCA from the mining and geothermal leasing laws. And so what this really means is that it's starting a procedure that's going to play out over a number of steps. First, the agencies have to finish their study. They're also going to go through a 90-day public comment and review period about the proposed withdrawal of mining and geothermal leasing opportunities. And there will be a 2-year holding period for any new leases in this area. And so what the decision makes clear, and I'll read this language because it's important, it's just coming straight from the Department of Interior. The 2-year segregation of lands initiated by today's announcement in the Federal Register prohibits the issuance of new prospecting permits or leases for mining related activities, but does not affect valid existing rights or activities on private lands. Separately, there are 2 leases within the proposed withdrawal area associated with the proposed Twin Metals mine that are currently in litigation. And so I just set the background on those litigations that are currently pending and underway that are referenced in this announcement that came out yesterday.
And, you know, Brian, maybe I'll help frame things a little bit here. I know it's very confusing that there are 2 agencies involved here, the U.S. Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management. And why that is that the U.S. Forest Service, it's part of the Department of Agriculture through the Superior National Forest. The U.S. Forest Service controls the surface rights. Whereas the Bureau of Land Management, that's part of the Department of Interior, controls the subsurface or mineral rights. So you really have these 2 different departments, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Interior, that are involved in this. So I know it can be pretty confusing to see that. And so, the other sort of big picture dynamic for protecting the boundary waters is that the land outside the boundary waters needs to be protected, because as the previous map shows, that water flows from outside the boundary waters into the boundary waters. And so this is a withdrawal of a consideration for a 20-year period of withdrawal for 225,000 acres right outside the boundary waters there, adjacent to it. So that's why you're seeing these U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management mentioned in there, and that's how the interplay is between the 2 agencies. So I know it's a little confusing there. So please go ahead. Thank you.
Sure, we can go to the next slide. Eric, I'll turn things over to you for the next piece of discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I'm Eric Barstead, another attorney at Robbins Kaplan, and I've had the privilege of serving as the Friends lawyer in this case for a few years now. One of the Friends lawyers in this case. We have a great team here. So what does yesterday's decision mean? As Brian alluded to, by its terms, it only prohibits the issuance of new prospecting permits or leases for mining-related activities. It does not affect valid existing rights or activities on private lands. And so the Twin Metals leases are currently in litigation, and so the question, the dispute that will be resolved through that litigation that Brian gave an overview of earlier is essentially whether those leases are valid. And so, although we're very excited and encouraged by yesterday's announcement, we remain focused on pursuing the merits of those actions, and we're confident that we will ultimately prevail. So the USDA, as by way of next steps, they will complete the 24-month study, the in-depth environmental impact statement that had been underway before it was awarded by the Trump administration, approximately 20 months into that process. So we're not certain about the exact timeline, but we know from previous reports that study was already well along before it was abandoned, and then the 90-day public comment period is also going to commence shortly. And so after the study is complete and after that 90-day comment period is complete, then a decision will be rendered on this withdrawal application that the Forest Service filed. And so again, the announcement really is separate from our ongoing litigation, and we continue to focus on those cases and look forward to prevailing. So, thank you. And Chris, do you want to speak to the Friends parallel efforts that are happening?
Sure, on the road ahead here, and there was maybe I'll use this occasion to speak to one of the questions in the Q&A here. And so what we have here is this withdrawal deals with future mineral leases that would be implicated, and that as Eric and Brian explained, that the current leases, which are in litigation on its terms, would not be directly affected. But one way of thinking about the proposed Twin Metals mine is a little bit like an Oreo cookie, where you have these two mineral leases on the east and west side, and in the middle you need some additional leases that Twin Metals hopes to secure as well. And it's a bit, and so that's sort of the cream in between the two wafers there. And so if Twin Metals is not able to secure that third lease in between these two other leases, that potentially would make Twin Metals not viable. And so this if this withdrawal does go through after the study is completed, then it does have the potential for making Twin Metals not viable as an operation. And so when we think of advocacy as an organization, we think of four parts of it. The first part is what we've been talking about here, litigation. And the second part, it deals with regulation and legislation. The third part deals with citizen action. And the fourth part, through our affiliate, the Friends of the Boundary Waters Action Network, our political arm, there's also political action. So litigation, legislation, community action, and political action here. And so the road ahead involves all this. And so we've talked about the lawsuits that we have here. We also have 4 lawsuits that deal with stopping the Polymet, the other proposed copper sulfide mine. So we have those are primarily in state court, although we have one matter in federal court to stop Polymet and protect the Lake Superior watershed. So for the public comment period, that 90-day public comment period begins right now, on this anniversary of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness Act of 1978. And so we'll be setting up a portal through our website where by which you can make public comments, and we'll have those directed to the federal government here. And there's really 2 parts to the public comments. We have both a substantive technical part and also one that is part of the community action part. So we want as many of you as possible to submit comments in support of the Boundary Waters, so that all our elected officials understand how important the Boundary Waters is to you, and that you do not want this type of mining that would destroy the Boundary Waters as we know it. And the second part of the public comment period will be technical comments that we will be preparing in partnership with other organizations. So it's sort of a 1-2 punch. It's both a substantive punch and it's also a community action punch, where we tell the Biden administration and all other elected officials how important the Boundary Waters is to us. On the legislative front, there's both federal legislation and state legislation that's very, very important. the Boundary Waters Protection and Pollution Prevention Act has been introduced by Congresswoman Betty McCollum from St. Paul here. And what this legislation would do is basically take the 20-year moratorium that's sort of now being considered here and making it permanent. So this would permanently permanently take those future mineral leases for copper sulfide mining off the table, not just for 20 years, but forever. And so we strongly support the Boundary Waters Protection and Pollution Prevention Act introduced by Congresswoman Betty McCollum, who's the modern day champion for the Boundary Waters now. We also are very supportive and are helping lead the effort to pass a Prove It First law in Minnesota. It is really much easier to pass laws at the state level than the federal level. So we're particularly excited about this. So Prove It First is a law that's modeled on a Wisconsin law that had been in effect for 20 years there. And it's a very common sense, straightforward law that basically says to twin metals or polymet or any other applicants for a copper sulfide mine, that you must prove that it has been done elsewhere in the United States safely for 10 years, and that the mine elsewhere has been closed for at least 10 years without causing pollution. And if that sort of very common sense demonstration of proof cannot be made, then this type of mining should not be done here in Minnesota. That Minnesota should not be a guinea pig with all this water all around us for this type of risky mining. We have 65 members of the Minnesota legislature that are sponsors of this. There are a total of 201 members of the Minnesota legislature. So we have about a third of the elected officials at our state level. And so we have a strong legislative support, and all of you out there can contact your state representatives and state senators and Governor Walz and ask them to enact this bill, which would stop not just twin metals, but would also stop polymet and other future copper sulfide mines. So we're very excited about the work we're doing, and really humbled by the legislative support that we have gotten from members of the Minnesota legislature on this. So Prove It First is very important there. And my colleague Maya Swope has just put in the link there background information about Prove It First here. And so some of the actions that you can do here is sign the petition to support Prove It First, and we'll also in the future have a portal for submitting comments on the proposed mineral withdrawal here. You can we are a nonprofit, and you can support us financially if you'd like here, and you can also support us by joining our Citizen Action Network. And my colleague Maya Swope has put her email address there. We are a people-based organization, and the strength of what we do is on all of you, is based on all of you that are watching this right now. You are really the strength of our organization, and for the last 45 years have been the strength of first establishing the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness and protecting it since October 21st of 1978 here. And so please contact Maya and join that. The Citizen Action Network will also work in tandem with our political work. So it's a separate entity altogether, but our Friends of the Boundary Waters Action Network does support candidates, and through that distinct arm of the two organizations, we can help elect candidates that will be Boundary Waters champions. And so we want Boundary Waters champions that will pass the laws needed to protect. And so just as people need the wilderness, and the wilderness needs you, the wilderness really needs people here. And so the decision yesterday was a result of really all the work that you as people have done for many years to keep the Boundary Waters front and center for all our elected officials here. We want to celebrate, and we want all of you to join us. Perhaps not if you're from Kent, Ohio, or Alaska, or Boise, Idaho, or Missouri, but those of you that are within driving distance, please join us this afternoon from 4 to 6 for a celebration at Lake Monster Brewing. Yes, well, Claudia Miller from Kent, Ohio. I'm glad you'll be there in spirit. You are from Portage County in Ohio there, I know. So we appreciate everyone who portages. And so we will get a ticket for a free beer. So if not the camaraderie and the celebration of a great thing that's happened, perhaps you'll be enticed by having a free beer with us. So again, that's Lake Monster Brewing in St. Paul this afternoon from 4 to 6. And Eric and Brian, we have some questions in here. Let's see if perhaps we could go through some of these here. There's a really good question that's in the Q&A here is, okay, so if there's the what's sort of driving this in one way from some people is like, boy, we really want good paying jobs here. What can we do? There we go, Portage County, Wisconsin, as well as Portage County, Ohio. And so it's good to see that in the chat. And Spencer Black, this is a bit of a segue, but thank you, Spencer Black. He was the primary author of the Prove It First bill in Wisconsin. So Spencer Black was serving in the Wisconsin Assembly, and we appreciate consulting with them to get guidance on how to pass the Prove It First bill here in Minnesota. So thank you for taking that first portage path, Spencer Black, to passing the Prove It First bill. But it is very important for us to recognize that there are real people with real needs in our state, and especially in northeastern Minnesota. And we recognize that we cannot be successful until those communities thrive. So our vision has protection of the wilderness, people of all backgrounds join the wilderness, and that those communities that are gateways to the wilderness are thriving and prosperous and support protection of the wilderness. So we have a community coordinator based in Ely who is working in Ely and communities throughout the Arrowhead region to have conversations to look at ways in which we can partner and make those communities thrive. And that ranges from big things such as supporting broadband internet service throughout the entire Arrowhead. It also supports small things such as supporting the Ely State Theater and helping the Ely State Theater get through the pandemic and so that it can still operate into the future here. From our perspective, we would like to see a concerted effort, sort of what's going on in Rochester, Minnesota here, to have a combined private and public resources devoted to northeastern Minnesota, so that we have sort of our version of the Rochester or a mini Marshall Plan for northeast Minnesota, where we have a true public-private partnership to have a diversified economy that builds on the resources there. So we really understand that there are very legitimate needs and concerns about jobs, and so we appreciate that question of working to promote prosperity in those communities there.
Chris, I can jump in here on one question. Let's see. Jenny asks, the language says, quote, considering or, quote, requesting a 20-year ban, what entities have the authority to deny that request? Just, based on the language of the Federal Register notice, the process is that the Forest Service, which is within the USDA, has filed the application with the Bureau of Land Management, which is as Chris explained, the agency that handles mineral rights, requesting the Secretary of the Interior to withdraw these acres from disposition under the leasing laws. So it will be a secretary level decision, with input and influence presumably by the head of the Bureau of Land Management and the Forest Service.
Great, thank you, Eric. I see a few questions related to the legislation here, and one was a reference. Last night we held a town hall meeting for citizens, people, and elected officials in Minneapolis to talk about the Prove It First bill. So we are having, because of COVID right now, virtual town hall meetings throughout the state, and so we have these. We have other ones coming up here, but we're holding them throughout the region, throughout the metro area, and throughout the entire state. And so we held one of these town hall meetings. They're Prove It First town hall meetings with elected officials in Minneapolis. And so we have in the link that Maya put in the chat, we have the elected officials who are our sponsors of the bill. And one of the things where we really need your support would be to contact Maya to be part of the Citizen Action Network, and then through our affiliate, our political arm, we are hoping that all of you will become Prove It First delegates at the precinct caucuses as part of that process, which will be on February 1st. 2022. So we would like you to be part of that process to attend these town hall meetings and then go forward to become active in our Citizen Action Network and become Prove It First delegates. There was another. Yes, thank you, Maya, for putting that in the chat function there. So if you look in the comment there for Maya, you'll see a link that you can click on and get information on that. There was also another question about how we work with. I'm going to respond to a comment in the chat function there from. There that yes, it's we want to protect not just the boundary waters, but all the other great watersheds that we have in the state here. That there's a continental divide, it's not just in the Rockies, but we have a continental divide here in Minnesota, where we have the Lake Superior, the Mississippi River, and up to the Hudson Bay here. So that's the power of the Prove It First bills that would protect all of those watersheds. There was a question about how we work with Save the Boundary Waters, and as Brian mentioned there in the introduction there, that yes, we partner with Northeastern Minnesotans for Wilderness in the litigation, and Northeastern Minnesotans for Wilderness, its program is the Save the Boundary Waters program. So we have been working hand in hand with Northeastern Minnesotans for Wilderness in this litigation for 3 years now, and we're grateful to be working with NMW as well as the Wilderness Society with Earth Justice serving as the attorneys for the Wilderness Society there. So so we are. That is how we work with the Northeastern Minnesotans for Wilderness, and our litigation on the polymet end, that there's sort of no one organization and no one individual that's really going to make this happen. And so this partnership's really important. And on the polymet, we work with the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy, Water Legacy, the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa. So we have a number of partners in all these litigation efforts. So it's really a team effort there. So the question is, and then what's the likelihood of these bills passing from Mark Jensen here? Well, what we need right now at the state level is where we have, I think, probably the greatest chance is to have a public hearing. So we need to have pressure to get a public hearing, Mark, and it's both the Democratic, that is the DFL leadership, and the Republican leadership that are holding it back. So we really need the message to be sent to the Democratic and Republican leadership to have a hearing on the Prove It First bill. Let's see some of these other questions here. Let's see. Let's see a hand that was raised here. There's another question. What are the chances that the obligation to promote mining can be removed from Minnesota DNR's responsibility? That's the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources has multiple responsibilities that really conflict with one another here, and one is to promote mining while trying to protect our natural resources, and so there is an effort to split off those responsibilities, and that again is one that requires pressure on both the Democratic and Republican leadership to move that proposal forward here. It is one that has a great deal of support from many different sectors, and so I cannot put a precise percentage on it, but the key first step is to get a hearing for that effort in the Minnesota legislature here. Let's see. There are other technical questions relating to some of the other ways in which this mine can have other pollution effects, such as the dust from the dry stack. There is a real concern with these operations from fugitive dust emissions, and some of this rock formation potentially has asbestos-like fibers in it. So it really has an air pollution, a potential air pollution impact here. So, Brian and Eric, do you see some other questions and comments that catch your eye there? I know there's a lot there, but what we can do is anything there, Brian or Eric?
I can spot the attorney in the crowd, or presume that there's an attorney in the crowd that asked about to the extent we can comment, has the Minnesota Court of Appeals decision on U.S. Steel Mintac permit giving you an argument to ask the court to require a functional equivalence analysis under County of Maui, or given yesterday's order, is there an opportunity to request U.S. Forest Service conduct a functional equivalent analysis to evaluate the impact that mining operations will have on the body waters watershed? I mean, I think it's a good question. As we were saying earlier, the litigation is currently pending, and there's evaluation underway at the federal level as to some of these existing leases. With respect to the upcoming evaluation on the impact on the watershed, I wonder if that could play any role along with that evaluation.
Okay, here, Brian and Eric, before we conclude here, Eric, do you have some any concluding remarks? So I'll start with you, Eric, for the folks that are watching right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage folks who are interested in learning more about the Friends' legal efforts with respect to twin metals, to go to the Friends website and follow the links to the complaint and to our DC Circuit appeal in particular. I'm sure it sounds very complex and technical, sort of when we use all these agency acronyms environmental statutes and regulations and stuff like that. But the briefs are easy enough to read and understand, and so yeah, I would just encourage you to dig in and learn more, and stay tuned to Chris and the Friends, obviously.
Great, thank you, Eric and Brian.
Yeah, so let me take off my lawyer hat, speak personally here. I want to thank everyone for your involvement and interest in this. Near and dear to my heart, and a lot of people on our team here that have been working on this case over time. And so thank you everyone for your interest in continuing following this and asking for ways that you can help and make a difference. So thank you for that, and for your dedication and involvement.
Great, and I want to again echo the comments here of Brian and Eric. Thank you, all of you, for your love of the Boundary Waters and your support of our work. It is only through you that we're able to do this. So we're very grateful for all that you do. And again, today is the 43rd anniversary for passage of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness Act of 1978. So please join us to celebrate that, along with the recent announcement from the Biden administration tonight at Lake Monster Brewing in St. Paul from 4 to 6, and have a free beer on us. So thank you so much. Thank you again, Brian. Thank you again, Eric. Everyone have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.